I don't know how much you help out around the house, but as a homeowner and as a single mom, I sure have learned how to use tools. And I want to share with you my wrench set that my father gave me so that I could learn to do my own things. And what I've done is I've arranged my wrench set from smallest to largest. And if I flip them over, I don't know if you can see in the video or not, but as I go from smallest to largest, this one says size 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, and 18. And yeah, there's a couple missing, and that's okay. But what do these numbers mean? Well, these wrenches are measured in metric. They're measured in millimeters. So this says 10. 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter. I can line it up on my ruler approximately here to show you. In everyday life, if you want to remember how big a centimeter is, think about the width of your baby finger. It's approximately, and I know we'll all vary a little bit, it's about a centimeter in length. Now the problem with this set of wrenches is that a lot of the things I fix don't fit with these wrenches because the things I fix around the house are not measured in metric. Some things are, but some things are not. So instead, I also have another set of wrenches in my wrench set, which I have arranged from smallest to largest. And when you flip them over, they have some very interesting numbers on them. The smallest one says 1/4 or 1 divided by 4. This one says 5/16, 3/8, 7/16, 1/2, 9/16, 5/8, 11/16, and 3/4. So these numbers don't seem to get bigger as nicely as my metric set does, but they clearly go from smallest to largest. So I want to understand why my wrench set is labeled this way as opposed to having just an easy set of increasing numbers, and that is the focus of today's lesson. This wrench set is measured in inches. Inches is an imperial measurement used by the United States. An inch is approximately the distance from the end of your pinky finger to the first knuckle. And again, it varies from person to person, but that's kind of a good benchmark. A centimeter, an inch. Centimeter, an inch. So today I want to teach you in this video why this wrench set looks like this. So you're going to need the following materials. So I'll give you the list and then you go grab them, pause the video, and then come back. You're going to need a sheet of paper, and it doesn't have to be a new sheet. It could be something that has writing on the back because we're going to cut it up anyway. You need a pair of scissors. You need a straight edge. It doesn't have to be a ruler. It could be the edge of your phone even if you want to. And then you need some colors. I have 4 colors of highlighters. You could use pencil crayons, crayons, different kinds of pens, whatever you have, and a pencil. So go grab those materials, pause the video, and then unpause when you get back. Right, what we're going to do with the piece of paper is I want you to put it this way, which is called landscape. And we're going to make a strip of paper somewhere between a centimeter and an inch. It doesn't matter exactly. I'm going to make it approximately this big. And I'm going to fold it over across nice and neatly so that the edges match, so that it is approximately the same thickness all the way across. And if you've done a good job of folding, you'll see this edge and this edge match perfectly. Okay? There's one strip, and there's a second one behind it if I go and fold over top again. So I'm just folding this edge underneath to create a new fold. Okay, and if I were to cut here, I would then have 1, 2, 3 strips of paper. So I want to do this until I have 5 strips of paper. So that would take me to 4. One more will take me to 5. Actually, we need 6, so I'm going to do one more. Like this. Okay, so they're all relatively straight and they're all relatively the same size. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be neat. All right? What I want you to do then is starting here along the edge, I want you to cut all the way across. Okay? Try not to cut the folded parts, but just use it as a guideline for where to cut. like this. Okay, you don't need this piece, it can be recycled. When you open this up, you should have 6 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? You're then going to use your scissors to cut along each of these folds until you get your 6 strips of paper. You can pause the video to do that. I already have them cut. Go ahead and I'll get mine ready. Okay. What we're going to do on the first strip is we're going to let this whole section be called one strip of paper, and I want you to put the number 1 on it, nice and bold in the center. Okay. The next strip of paper we're going to fold in half perfectly. So line up the edges, fold it. Okay. And for this one, you can probably just eyeball where that fold is, draw a line, but make sure it's straight. If you're not sure if you can make it straight, use your ruler and line it up to make it nice and straight like this. And you now have 2 halves. This is a half of the strip of paper, and this is a half of the strip of paper. We're going to write those fractions on there just like that. Let's put it underneath our whole strip. Now, we're going to, with the third strip of paper, to fold it in half, and then in half again. So before I open it, can you predict how many sections there will be in this piece, this strip of paper? Well, when I open it up, I end up with 4 sections. So again, we're going to grab the ruler, straight line where each of those folds is. And we now have 4 sections. So this is one of the 4 sections. This is one of the 4 sections. This is one of the 4, and this is one of the 4. They should all be the same. Let's do this again. This time we're going to fold our next strip in half, half again, and then half again. So before you open it up, can you predict how many sections there will be in this piece of paper? Let's find out after we draw all of the lines in. And you can pause this video as needed if I'm going too fast for you. Well, when you count them up, you should find there are 8. So this is 1/8 of the piece of paper. This is an 1/8. This is an 1/8. And if you're doing it nice and carefully as you go, they should all be the same size. So take your time and do it well. Okay, and like I said, if you need to slow down the video so you can do a good job, no problem. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. Strip of paper number 5. We're going to go in half once, half twice, half 3 times. That got us to this strip of paper. Now we're going to do one more time, 4 times in half. So if you fold a piece of paper in half 4 times, how many pieces or how many sections of that strip do you get? Well, again, take a moment to draw in all of your lines. Take as much time as you need to do it well. Fix this one a little bit. There it is. Sometimes I have a hard time finding my folds and I just need to lift the paper up to find them, and that's okay. That one's right there. There. And that one's right there. All right, when you count all of these little pieces, you should find that there are 16 of them. So this is one of the 16 sections. This is another 16, all the way across, 1/16 all the way. And again, if you've done it carefully, they should all be about the same width. It really depends on how good of a folder you are. If you're an accurate folder and you get your edges together, it'll look fantastic. All right, there we go. Now, I want to flip these over upside down and line up their edges according to the outsides. Now the other thing I think I failed to mention that you need is either a stapler or maybe some tape or a piece of paper that you could glue them to. That also works. I'm going to use some Scotch tape, and I'm going to do this in sections so I can kind of keep the edges together. Okay, so I'm going to put those three together to start, and then I'll do the other bottom two to that middle one. Again, make sure these all line up before you tape it together. There you go. Whoops, let me fix that. Coffee's kicking in, so my hands have the jiggles a little. That's okay. There we go. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. It's hard to do all five at the same time, so do them in pieces. So I'm going to do the first three, tape them together, and then I'll add the bottom two to those three I already have. Flatten it out, and there we go. Okay. I'm going to flip it back over, and we're going to make some observations here. Here's where your colors are going to come in now. So first of all, I want you to look for where the lines match up the most. And when I look in the center here, I see that 4 of the strips of paper all line up along the center. So my first color is going to highlight or accentuate that line. Okay? Then I'm going to look for, using my second color, the next number of lines that join up. So I notice that these 3 strips of paper all have a line that joins up. So I'm going to highlight it. And I notice the same thing happens on this side as well. Okay? And those are the only 2 that are that length. Next, I'm going to look for the next longest lengths of lines that line up. And I notice that there's one here, and here, and here, and here. And again, pause the video as needed if I'm going too quickly. And finally, I still have some lines here on my strips that are put together that are very short. These ones right here. They don't line up with anything else. They're just there by themselves. There you go. Now, this is where your 6th piece of paper comes in. And you might want to secure it in place, either with tape or just make sure the sides are always lined up while you're doing this part, because this is like the big idea of all of this. All right. We're going to make an imperial ruler. So, I'm going to go back through my colors, beginning with the longest line. And what I want to do here is I want to show on my bottom piece the longest line, almost to the bottom. Okay? And I notice that the measurement that corresponds with that longest line is 1/2, or 2 1/4, or 4 1/8, or 8 1/16. So what we do on an imperial ruler is we use the denominator that is the smallest that can represent that measurement. So 8/16, 16 is a big number. 4/8, 8 is a little bit smaller. 2 1/4, 4 is a little bit smaller, but 1/2 has the smallest denominator of all. And so I'm going to just write 1/2 here for now. I know you can't see it, but you can write it in. Okay? Next, I'm going to draw in the next longest lines. So these take up 3 of the strips, so I'm going to draw it about 3/4 of the way down, about like this. Okay, not quite as long as the 1/2, but longer than halfway down here. Now, this measurement can be thought of as being 1 1/4, 2 1/8, or 4 1/16. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to show this measurement using the smallest number in the bottom, because they all are the same distance or the same length apart from beginning to here. I noticed that 1/4 is the easiest way to use that measurement using the smallest numbers possible. Now if I go over to this one, I notice that again it corresponds with 1/4, 2 1/8, and so on, but I'm going to count from the left. So this line represents 1, 2, 3 1/4 or 3/4. It represents 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths or 6 1/8, and it represents 8 1/16. So how can I show this measurement using the smallest numerator and denominator possible? Well, I can show it doing 3 1/4 or 3/4 like this. Okay. Let's now go to the green lines, and let's put them about halfway down this time on our ruler, like this. And let's see how we can communicate those lengths starting from left and going to right. Well, I noticed to this green line can be 1/8 or it can be 2 1/16. I'm going to use the option that gives me the smallest values. So 2 16ths has a 2 and a 16, 1/8 has a 1 and an 8. That's smaller, okay? It's called lowest terms for this fraction. And so we can let that be 1/8 to there. To the next green line, I notice that to get there, I use 3 1/8 or 6 16ths. 3 1/8 is easier to write than 6 16ths. So I'm going to write it as 3/8. If I keep going to green lines, I notice that to get to this one takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/8 or 10 1/16. I'm going to show this as 5/8. You start to notice a pattern here as well. Look, 1/8, 3/8, 5/8. What do you suppose this one might be? Well, we seem to be going up by odd numbers. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. Let's see if that works. Well, how many 8s do you count going from the left to get to this green line? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1/8. Or how many 16ths do you think it might be? Well, 16 16ths is over here. This would be 15 16ths. This would be 14 16ths. 7/8 is a smaller way of writing that distance. Now the only ones we have left are the blue lines. So this time, because they're only one strip long when we combine these together, we're going to make them the littlest. Okay. Now because they don't line up with anything else, we can record their measurements using just the 1/16 strip. So to get to here is 1/16. To get to this green line is 2 16ths, but we're going to call it 1/8 instead. This becomes 3 16ths. To here would be 4 16ths, but we're going to call it 1/4 instead. This gets us to 5 16ths. 6 16ths, but we're going to call it 3/8 instead. 7 16ths. 8 16ths is the same as 1/2. 9 16ths. 10 16ths is the same as 5 1/8. 11 16ths. 12 16ths, but we've decided that we can actually call it 3/4 instead, using the largest pieces available, right? So 11, 12, here we get to 13 16ths. This is 14 16ths, but we're going to call it 7/8. And then we have 15 16ths. And then when we get to the end, all of these line up together, one big line, we can call it a whole or one. Now, previous to this video, you were able to create some cutouts of fractions because I want you to understand why this works. So when you're learning to put these in order, I want you to use the strategy I just used. Start with a half, start and then go down until you get to your quarters. You only have 1/4 and 3/4 that you have to put in here and here. Next, put in your eighths. 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, and 7/8 gives you your green lines. Okay, so half, quarters, eighths. Lastly, you can fill in your 16ths. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. And then what you can do is you can actually spread them out and put them in order. Now I'm going to run out of room a little bit here, unfortunately, to be able to do that. Okay? But on the sheet that is posted in Google Classroom, they are listed in order from Roy, from left to right, or you can see your order here that they should be. Okay? You can put them in order. The only piece you have left to add is 1 at the very, very end, which is your 16/16ths, or your 8/8s, or your 4/4s, or your 2 halves, or your whole. Okay? So this gives you the basis for measuring using imperial measurement. When you get to your measuring tape, you've taken this and shrunk it down a little bit to inches. But you'll notice on your measuring tape, not so much on this one because it's a cheaper one, but the good industrial ones, you'll see that between each inch, a half is always the longest line, the quarter markings are always the second longest lines, the 1/8 are a little bit shorter, and the 16ths are the shortest yet. And that will help you learn how do you measure using a tape measure. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know.